Instagram has such a simple yet elegant design, and on top of that, it's very modular. It's almost like a puzzle because it has a lot of pieces that can be reused throughout the whole website. And for me, that makes it very interesting to rebuild as a practice project. So today we're going to build Instagram in React, and we're going to reuse as much of our code as we possibly can to build pretty much everything that exists on Instagram's homepage. So to start off, I created a new React app using this command over here. And I've also installed a couple of Node modules from the start, so I don't have to do it later, but I will lead you through them when we get to them. We do not need to set up anything else. We will use some of the images from the Instagram's website, some SVGs, but I can show you how to pick those up. So to start off, we need to remove a couple of things. So from app CSS, I'm going to delete everything. From app, I'm also going to remove most of its content. I'm also going to remove the logo because we don't need that. We're going to remove tests. From index CSS, we're not going to touch index CSS. From this here, we're going to remove the report vitals part, and that is it, I believe. We're going to remove this logo here, the vitals, the setup tests, and that should work properly. So we're going to set up a couple of folders for components and for styles, and one for images and one for data, because we are going to use some imaginary data instead of a database. So I'm going to create a folder called components, a new folder called styles, one folder for images, and another folder for data. Now for the styles, I've chosen to do this project with Sass. To use Sass with React, you're going to use this command over here. So npm install node-sass at 4.14.1. When you install the module, you're going to be able to change your CSS files to SCSS. We're not going to use anything complicated. We're just going to nest declarations. I'm going to do just that. I'm going to rename this file to SCSS. And I will do the same with the index, although we're not really going to change anything in there. And I'm going to move these to styles, and I am going to move the app to components because it is a component. Now what we need to do, we need to save all. We need to change our declarations here. This is styles index SCSS, and this is okay. And in the app, we need to do styles/app SCSS. And just like that, this should work. Now we're going to do the npm start, which should restart the app. So if I refresh this, we can see there's a white page over there, and I'm just going to type in hello world just so we can see it's working, and you see hello world here. Okay, that's great. So next thing that we need to do, I'm going to close this for now because we're not going to use anything from there. Now we are going to create Instagram, like I said, and Instagram has a lot of parts. Like I said, we are going to recreate Instagram, and we are going to do that by starting from the navigation. Then we're going to create the main part of the page, which is going to hold everything at the center. We're going to make a separate component for the stories, for the posts or the postcards or the cards. And we're going to do a separate sidebar menu or sidebar section, which is going to have your profile and all of this stuff that you can see on the screen right now. Some of the stuff we are going to fake, but some of the stuff we're going to get through APIs. So let's begin. We're going to create a new component here, which is going to be called navigation. And navigation doesn't exist yet, but I can import it by saying import navigation, and everything's going to break. But I'm going to create a new file called navigation.js, and we are also going to create a new file called navigation.scss, so we can import it here, which is going to have all of the styles. We're going to import this by saying, import styles / navigation.scss. Okay, I added an S here, so navigation. Now this should work. Okay, not okay. Navigation is not. Okay, so import navigation from navigation. This is going to be a function navigation, no parameters, and it's just going to return a div with a class name of navigation. And inside of that, we're going to have another div with a class name of container. And in there, we're going to have an image with a class name of logo, which is going to be Instagram's logo. I'm going to leave the source empty for now, and as alt, I'm going to say Instagram logo and close that. And then we're going to have another div, which is going to be our search bar. Close that. And inside of that, there is going to be another image, which is going to be the search icon. I'm going to leave source empty for now, and alt is going to be search icon. Close the tag. And there is going to be a span, which is going to have a class name of search text, and it's going to say search. Okay. Hit save. And of course, we need to do export default navigation. And now we have everything in there. Now for the Instagram logo, literally went to Instagram and it has a logo here. And I went to open image in new tab, and I basically downloaded this image. You can hit save image as, and you can move it to your images folder, which I am going to do right now. For this to work, I need to import the logo from images Instagram logo.png and import search icon from the same place. Images search icon.png. And for the source, I'm going to use logo over here and search icon over here. And there you go. There they are. The logo is really small and the search icon is really big, but we are going to handle that in CSS. And now the rest of the menu from Instagram is going to go into a new component, which we are going to call menu. I'm going to import it. Import menu from menu.js. Import menu from menu.js. And I am going to create menu.js over here and a new CSS file called menu.scss over here. And for now, we're just going to say function menu return div. Oops. And we are going to say export default menu. For menu, we are going to use a bunch of different icons that you can grab directly from Instagram's page. You can click on any of these buttons, which we are adding into the menu right now. And it's going to show you a path and an SVG. And what you can do is you can hit edit as HTML, and you can select all, copy this, and now you can go back to your images folder, create a new file, and we can call this home.svg. And inside of that, you can paste what you copied from Instagram. And you can basically grab all of these icons over here in this way, except for the last one, which is going to be your profile icon, which we are going to create as a new component a bit later. So just either do that, or like I said, all the icons are going to be available on my GitHub repo as SVGs, so you can do that too. So now that you have all of the images, we need to import them over here. And we're also going to import the CSS file, or the SCSS file. Styles menu.scss. And the way you import SVGs is like this. We're going to say import React component as home. So we're going to import the SVG as a React component from, and now you find your image, which is home.svg. Now that is imported. And now just to show you how it works. So we have a div class menu, and we are going to use the SVG as a component. And we're going to add a class name of icon to it. And now when I hit save, you are going to see a little home icon over here. Now we need to do that for all of the other images as well. And when you are done, you are going to end up with something that looks like this. So we have a home component, inbox, explore, and notifications, which are these icons over here. So this is your inbox icon, this is the explore page icon, and this is the notifications, or however they called it. And for now, that is it. We are going to leave a place here for a profile icon component, but we're going to get back to that a bit later. For now, I want to edit the CSS for this. First thing that we are going to do is in the styles folder, we're going to set up a new file, which is going to be called _properties.scss. And in here, we're going to basically define all of our variables. There is a bunch of them, so I'm just going to copy paste them. These are all colors that we are going to use for the page. So the background white and background gray are the literally white and almost complete white that Instagram uses on its homepage. The gradient colors are the story border colors that we're going to use. We are going to use these colors for the fonts mostly, and this one is going to be used for the footer. These two are going to be used for our borders. This is going to be used for the links and buttons. And this is the font property. I'm using Montserrat because Instagram uses a font called Proxima Nova font, which is a paid font. So I'm not going to use that here, but Montserrat looks pretty close to it. Not exactly the same, but it is good enough. So keep that in mind. If you have another font that you want to use, go ahead and do it. We are going to import this partial. We're going to import this partial in all SCSS files where we need to use any of these properties. So to use the partial in an SCSS file, we need to import it like this. So keep in mind that we do have an underscore here, but it's not being used when you are importing the file. Now for the body, we are going to set the background color to one of the properties, which is the background white. Font family is also going to be a property, which is font. Font size is 16 pixels. Margin is 0. Padding is 0. And minimum width is going to be fit content. So in the menu, we are also going to import properties. And for navigation, we're going to say navigation. Navigation needs to have its position fixed because when you scroll down in the Instagram page, the navigation is always at the top. So it's going to have position fixed with top of 0. For Z index, we're gonna put 2. And the background color is going to be the property background white. Width is going to be 100%, and we are going to have a little border at the bottom, which is going to be 1 pixel solid, and we're going to use property border color gray. And let's refresh this and see if we can, so you can see it over there. Now to define for container, we're gonna do container. And if you're using SCSS for the first time, what this basically means is if you have a property defined over here and then you have another property defined inside of it, it basically reads as dot navigation dot container. So container that is inside of navigation, and to not this is very useful because you don't have to write down everything. You can just sort of embed them inside each other, and that is very useful. So we're going to set a bit of padding, which is going to be 1M, 0.9 M, 0, which are a bit of magic numbers, but they work. We're going to set display to flex because we need to order the icons properly, and we're going to align items to center. We're going to justify content to space between. we are going to set max width to 1000 pixels, and we're going to have a margin of 0 and auto. Now our logo is inside of the container, so we can write it like this, and it's going to have a padding of 0.1 m, and we're going to cap its width to 100 pixels. And to set up its hover state, we need to do it like this. So for the hover, we are going to set cursor to pointer. And what this means is this sign over here means that this is going to be written as this when it builds. If it didn't have this, then it would basically mean this is a hover element inside of a logo, which doesn't exist, which isn't like a proper CSS declaration. So you need, in SCSS, you need to write it like this. And now when we hover over the logo, we get a pointer cursor. Now for search, we are going to set the border to be 1 pixel solid border color gray. We're going to give it a bit of a border radius, 3 pixels. And for the background color, we are going to use another property called background gray. For minimum width, we are going to set 225 pixels, and it's also going to have a display of flex, so we can arrange the text and the search icon. So display flex, align items to the center, and we are going to justify content to center as well. Hit save. Everything is jumbled up, that's okay. Then for the search icon, we are going to set the width to 10 pixels, and that instantly looks better. And we're going to set its opacity to 0.4 because it's a bit dark, and we are going to give it a bit of right margin so it's not sticked to the text completely. Now we're going to add one thing for mobile devices, and that is a media rule that says at certain point remove the search bar, because Instagram is set up like that. When you are on a mobile device, the search bar isn't shown at all. It's actually used on the explore page, so we are going to declare that rule here, saying media only screen, and max width is 500 pixels. We're going to say search display none, display none, important. Now if we you can see it disappears when the screen gets smaller, which is good. We want that. I forgot to change the search text, which also needs to be a bit lighter. So search text. For the color, we are going to use the property font color secondary. For the font size, we are going to use 0.85 m, and font weight is going to be 300, and that looks instantly better. And All of this actually goes not into the menu but into navigation. So I'm just going to copy that over there, and in the menu, we actually have this. So we actually have menu, and the menu is going to be flex, display flex, with a bit of a padding to the right, which is 1.5 em. And there we are going to set styles for the icons, which are the icons over here. So icon margin right is going to be 1.5 em. Width is going to be 23 pixels, which is very specific. I found that to be just about right. 23 pixels. Height. And once again, for the hover, we're going to set cursor pointer. So that is it for now. So it looks like this currently. Now we are going to create a new component for the profile icon over here. So, like I said, profile icon, and we are going to import profile icon from profile icon, and in the components, profile icon.js. And profile icon JS has a lot of things going on for it, but for now we are going to import the styles. So styles profile icon.scss, and we of course need to create that file. So profile icon.scss, and this is going to be a function profile icon, and it is going to have props, and it's going to export default profile icon. And for starters, we're just going to return a div with a class name of profile icon. Okay, that's back to normal. Now, profile icon is a bit specific in that we're going to use it for this image over here. We're going to use it over here. We are going to use it for the story buttons, and we're going to use it over here for the suggestions. And it is also used here as the postcard in the postcard header. And it is also used in the comment section. So it is used in a lot of places. So that's where the modularity part comes in that I talked about previously. So the way we're going to handle this is image is going to be one of the props. And if you pass in the image as a prop, then we are going to display that image, which is going to be used in two cases where we are actually having our account image displayed to us. And for purposes of this exercise, I am going to use a random image for all other profile image icons. And I'm going to get that from a very cool website called Prevatar. And I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So for the props, we're going to deconstruct the props to icon size, story border, and image. Now, what does this mean? Icon size is simply going to determine the size of the profile icon, because like you saw, we have profile icons in multiple sizes. If a user posted a story, they're going to have a story border around their profile icon. So this is going to be used for that. And like I said, we're going to be able to pass in the image, or if the image isn't passed in, we're going to use a random one. To get a random number, you are going to use a function from JavaScript. You're going to use this function over here. So this is pretty much a function called getRandomInt, which takes in two numbers, the minimum and the maximum value. Why are we using this? Because the Prevatar has 70 possible images that you can get, and we need to get a random one between 1 and 70. So this basically gives you an integer value, the whole number value, and this formula over here is basically the main thing, which is going to give you a random number between 0 and 70. Now we're going to create a new property called random ID, and we are gonna get a random int from 1 to 70. And we're going to say our profile image is going to be image if it exists. If it doesn't exist, we are going to use https:// Prevatar cc 150 is the width of the image. I believe you can enter different numbers, different values here. And then we say question mark image equals, and then we pass in our random ID. We pass in our random ID, and now we have profile image. If image is passed into the component, we use that image. If not, we get a random one from Prevatar. And now for the actual HTML, we are going to say this over here is actually not going to be called profile icon. It's going to use story border. So if we pass in a story border boolean as true, it's going to have a class called story border. And if not, we're not going to use anything. And inside of that div, we're going to have an image, which is going to have a class name. And the class name is going to be profile icon. And we're also going to use property called icon size. Like I said, icon size, I need to close the tag here. Icon size is just going to determine the size of it, and we're gonna specify that in the CSS later. Now we're gonna add a couple of more things here. So for the source, we are going to use the profile image, which we got here. And last thing, we're gonna set up alt to profile. And as you can see, we got an image over here. And if I refresh, we're gonna get another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And there are 70 different pictures, so I'm not gonna go through all of them. So this is our setup for this. Now I'm gonna go back to the menu, and in the menu we are actually implementing a couple of things here, or rather we are passing in a couple of different properties here. So for the icon size, we want it to be small. We're gonna define 3 different sizes. There's gonna be a small one, medium one, and a big one. So this one is going to be small. And for image, we are actually going to import an image over here, and that image is going to be, I'm just going to put it over here. It is going to be an image that I've set here. It's basically my profile image. You can use either that one or another one. So we're just going to import image from images, and this one is called profile.jpg. So like you can see here, this is using my image right now. So we see that the logic works. If we pass in the image, it uses that image. If not, it uses a random one. Now we need to set up CSS for the profile icon. We need to set up profile icon. So we're also going to import properties, and I forgot a slash over here. So import properties, and for the story border, we are gonna set a bit of padding over here. Now we are gonna use a linear gradient for the background, as you might have guessed, because the story border is a really colorful gradient. So we're gonna set it to 200 degrees, and we are going to use our gradient colors. So gradient 1, which goes to 25%, and I'm going to copy all of this. And this is going to be 2 and 3 and 4, and the percents are 50, 75 and 100%. And we are gonna give it a border radius of 50% because it is a circle. So next we're gonna set the profile icon, and it's also going to have a border radius of 50%, and it's going to have a border which is going to be 2 pixel solid background white. You will notice this later, but basically Instagram has sort of a little, it has the colorful border, but it also has a little white border before the image, in between the colorful border and the image. And we are going to set this to display as block to remove the little spacing at the bottom of images. And we are going to set its hover to cursor pointer. And now we're going to set the sizes. So the small is going to be width 25 pixels, height 25 pixels, and I'm just going to copy paste this and set this one to medium, which is 35, and this one is big, and it is 60 by 60. And if you remember, we set this to small, so it did shrink to a small size, which is great. So yeah, okay, so and just to show you that just to test that the profile, just to test that the story border works, I'm going to set this to story border equals true. And you can see there is a border here. It's going to be a more visible for the bigger ones, but it works. That was the final part of the navigation. We are now going to move to the center part, which is the cards themselves. Back in the app component, I'm going to add a main tag, and inside of it, I'm going to add a div with the class name of container. And inside of it, I'm going to add two new components called cards and sidebar. Now these don't exist yet, so when I hit save, everything's gonna break, which is okay. I'm going to import them first. Import cards from cards and import sidebar from sidebar. Now I am gonna create the components here. So cards.js function cards return div with a class name of cards. Export default cards. And I'm just gonna copy paste this here and rename this to sidebar and set this to sidebar and copy it over here and over here and over here. And I need to import their SCSS files. So import styles cards.scss. Hit save, and in here we're gonna have sidebar, and here we need to create those. So cards.scss and sidebar scss, which should make this work, and it does, which is great. So inside of the cards, we are going to have another new component, which is going to be stories, which is basically that stories container, stories box, where you have the stories buttons with profile icons. So we need to import stories. There are a lot of components here, so bear with me. Stories, that is it for now. We're just gonna import that, and in here we are gonna use that component, which, like I said, doesn't exist yet, so everything's gonna break. And I'm just going to copy the sidebar, rename it to stories, and copy that over here, and over here. And we need to create a new file, stories scss. Now we are going to move on to the stories themselves, and over here we are going to use a new plugin which you are going to need to install. So Instagram stories are scrollable, and for that we're going to use a plugin called React Scroll Horizontal. And to install that, you are going to use a command npm i react scroll horizontal, which is going to install it to your machine. So when you're done with that, we're actually going to create two new components. First one is going to be the horizontal scroll itself. So horizontal scroll from React scroll horizontal, and we're just gonna use it here as a horizontal scroll. And we're gonna set the class name to scroll, and we're gonna set its property reverse scroll to true. because it is reverted from the start for some reason. And now inside of this, we are going to put basically a bunch of new story components, which we don't have yet. So we're gonna create a new story component, which we are going to copy paste like a bunch of times so we can see the story container actually being scrollable. Now story doesn't exist yet, so everything breaks once again. To fix that, we are going to import story from story, and I'm going to copy sidebar and rename it to story once again. Change the name, change the default, change the SCSS, and change the class name. And we need to create a new SCSS file called story.scss, which makes everything look all right once again. Now inside of the story, we are going to add a profile icon, which we already have. So import profile icon, because that's used because it has a profile icon. And we are going to import a file called users from data/users. Now this file does not exist there yet, and now it does exist. So what is this? This is basically a file that sort of simulates a database, which we don't have here. So it's basically just one property, one object called users, which is one array called users, which has objects inside of it with this structure. So they have an ID, they have a name, and they have a username. And it's basically 20 different users. Some of them I found online from an API. I can't remember which one right now, and some of the others I added myself, and I couldn't be bothered to add more than 20. So this is what we have. We are going to use this as sort of the same way we use the image API, where we are getting random images. We're going to use this file to get random names and usernames. So back at the story component, we are going to get the account name by doing this. So account name is going to be equal to users, and what we're doing is we're basically just getting a random user from the array, and to get that you once again need to use a JavaScript function for getting random number, which is this math.floor, and inside of that we pass in math.random, and we multiply that by users.length, and from that we pick a username, and that is our random username. Instagram also has a feature where if the account name is too long, they cut part of it out. So we're going to use the same principle here, and we're going to say if the account name dot length is greater than 10, so more than 10 characters, we're going to say account name equals account name dot substring, and we're going to clip that, and we're going to add three dots at the end of it because Instagram does that. So, and in the actual HTML, we are gonna use the profile icon, which is going to have its icon size set to big, and story border is going to be set to true. Story border is going to be set to true because all of the profiles that are located in the story section are there because they have a story. So obviously we need to have a story border there. And we're going to have, for the username, we're going to have a span with the class name, account name, and we're going to use the account name in there. Now, in order for this to work, we need to go back to the app CSS and set up a couple of things. So main is going to have background color set to background gray, and margin top is going to be 60 pixels. Now the container is going to have display flex and justify content to the left, and the margin is going to be 0 auto, and max width is going to be 1000 pixels. And while I am in here, I'm also going to set the rules for the links, which we are going to use later, but just so I don't forget. So text decoration is going to be none. Color is going to be link color. Font size is going to be 0.9 em, and font weight is going to be 500. And over here, we're also going to set one media screen rule, which is going to be media only and media only screen, and max width is going to be 1024 pixels. And what we're going to do is we're gonna set the container to justify its content to center, because that is basically the point of cutoff when the sidebar is going to disappear. And when the sidebar disappears, the sidebar and the main page content are not going to be centered anymore. So we need to push the container to be centered, basically. So we need to set styles for stories. We're gonna import properties once again. And we're gonna set stories to display as flex. We're gonna align content to center, and we are gonna set the background color to background white, and there is going to be a bit of a border. Border is going to be 1 pixel, solid border color gray, and border radius is going to be 3 pixels, and we're also going to have margin. Margin is going to be 2em. Margin is going to be 2m0, 1.5 m0, and we're gonna set its height to 7. We're gonna set its height to 7.4 m, and overflow is going to be set to hidden. We're also gonna set a media rule, so media only screen, and max width is going to be 640 pixels, and we're going to say stories is going to have a margin change to 0.5 m0. Why is this? Because At smaller screen sizes, basically the whole Instagram compresses, so there's less space in between the cards and the stories and everything. So you are more easily able to see a bunch of content on the same page, and you stick around longer on Instagram. That's why the margins are smaller. So that's for stories. And inside of the story, we need to once again import properties, and for the story we're gonna set display to flex. Flex direction is gonna be column. Align items to the center. We're gonna set a margin to 1em, 0.5em, and now we're gonna set additional margins for the first child and for the last child, because they have a bit of more push from the sides. So first child is going to have margin left set to 1em, and a last child is going to have margin right set to 1em. And for the count name, we are going to set the font size to 0.65em and the margin to 0.4em. And nothing is being shown because we need to set the cards container to actually have some width. So cards needs to have width of 600 pixels. And now there's actually stuff in there. And we're gonna add a new media only entry here, saying media only screen, and max width is going to be 600 pixels again. And for the cards, we're gonna set their width to 100%, which means when screen size goes below 600 pixels, we want the cards container to be across the whole screen on mobile devices. So that's what that does. And to test if the scrolling works, I'm just gonna scroll with my mouse, and as you can see, it is completely scrollable. Now when I open the full screen, you can see I can scroll the story container, and you can see a bit more clearly how the border looks and the white border in between the colored one and the image. So this looks good. Now we're gonna move on to creating the sidebar. Now, when creating the sidebar, we are going to use another module that you need to install, which you can do by using this command over here. So npm install react sticky L, which is basically a sticky container which we are going to use to put the sidebar into it. And what it does, it basically sticks the sidebar to the top of the page, because Instagram's sidebar works like that. It's always fixed. And what this plugin enables us to do is to keep the position the same, but also reserve the space on the page. Now, when you install the sticky plugin, we are going to import it as sticky from react sticky L. We are also going to import some other components that we don't have yet. So I'm just going to import them, and then we are going to create them. So we're going to import a profile component, which we don't have yet. from profile. Then we're gonna import suggestions from suggestions. Then we're gonna import footer from footer. And once again, we're gonna import that image that we used for our profile picture. Images profile.jpg. Let's create a new component called profile.js. It's gonna import styles profile.scss. Will be a function. Profile return div class name equals profile, and it's gonna be exported as default profile. Now we are gonna copy this and rename it to suggestions. And just switch this over here, suggestions, copy paste that one and rename it to footer. Change the name, change the export, change the class name, and change the file. And now we need to create the files. So profile.scss, copy that, suggestions.scss, and copy that and call it footer SCSS. And it's all back to normal right now. So we can close all of these and get back to the sidebar. So in the sidebar, we're gonna start with the sticky component, which is actually gonna be a container. And we are going to give it a top offset of -80, which means it's going to get sticked or sticked to the top of the page right away. That's what the negative value does. The positive value means you need to scroll a bit. That's why it's offset a bit. And after you hit that value, then it's going to get sticked to the top. But we want to do it right away because Instagram's sidebar is at the top right away. So we're going to add another div here, which is going to have a class name of sidebar. And inside of that, we are going to set the profile component. And the profile component is going to have a couple of different, well, more than a couple of different properties. And I'm going to enter those right now. And then I'm going to explain them. So we're going to have username. Then we're going to have caption. Then we're gonna have URL text. It's going to be switch. Icon size is going to be big. And image is going to be image that we imported, and close that. So the username is going to be the username that's associated with the image. The caption is the whatever is written below that. It has different things in different places. For the profile in the at the top of the Instagram page, this is your real name that you set in Instagram. The URL text is the button the button text. All of the profile cards have some sort of button associated with them. This one has the text of switch. The icon size is the same property that we're using at the profile icon, and we're gonna pass this as a prop into a profile icon, and the image is the same thing as well. So, and right below profile, we're gonna set the suggestions component. And after that, we are gonna set the footer component. And that is that. Now we need to go into the profile and need to set stuff here. So we're gonna import the profile icon component, which we already have. And we are gonna use it here. Also, we are going to import the users file that we already created earlier and used for the stories. So data users, this is gonna accept props, and we're gonna deconstruct these props, and there is a bunch of them. So username, caption, URL text, icon size, caption size, story border. Then we have hide account name. This is going to be used a bit later, and I'm going to explain what it does when we get to it. And an image. And this is equal to props. So once again, we are gonna get a random account name from the file, and for that we use the same, pretty much the same function that we used in the story component. So the account name is not random if we pass it in. If we do not pass it in, then it is random. In this case, I did pass in my username, so we are gonna see my username. But in all other cases, we're gonna see a random one. In the actual HTML, we're gonna say profile icon, and we're gonna pass in icon size, and it's going to be the icon size property. We're gonna pass in story border, which is going to be the story border property. And we're gonna pass in the image, which is going to be the image property. What we want to do next is, in some cases, we want to show the account name and the caption if they exist. So if account name exists or if a caption exists, we want to show them where the account name is the account name and the caption can be whatever. I sort of cheated a bit here and used it in some places where you probably wouldn't use it normally, but for the purpose of exercise, I think it's okay. So what we want to do is we want to say if there is an account name, or if there is a caption, and hide account name is false, we want to show this. And what is this? Is a div with a class name of text container, which has two span elements inside, One of them has a class name of account name, and it shows the account name here. And the other span has a class name of caption and a caption size, and it's showing caption, and this needs to be closed like this. Okay. So I'm gonna show you the use case where this comes into play a bit later. Below that, we're gonna have a link, which is just gonna be a dummy link, and it's gonna have a URL text. Now we need to set up the profile CSS. To do that, we are going to import properties once again, and profile. I'm gonna spread this out a little bit so it's easier to see. So profile is gonna have display flex, and we're gonna align the items to center. Font size is going to be 0.8 em, and margin bottom is going to be 0.85 em. Now the text container, is gonna be displayed as flex as well. Flex direction is gonna be column. Margin left is gonna be 1 em, and max width is going to be 180 pixels. And inside of a text container, we have account name, which is going to have font weight 500, margin bottom 5 pixels, and we're going to have on hover, we're gonna have cursor pointer and text decoration underline. For the caption, we are going to have color, font color secondary, and if it's set to small, we are also going to shrink its size a little bit. So font size is going to be 0.8 em, and we're going to set the URL to align its text to left, and width is going to be 100. We also need to set up sidebar, and for that we're going to set width to 320 pixels, and we're going to set padding to 7 em, 2 em, 0 to em, which is going to push it from the top a bit. And we're also gonna set a media rule here, saying media only screen and max width 1024 pixels, and we're gonna set the sidebar to display none, because if you remember, I mentioned that for smaller screen sizes, the sidebar disappears completely, and that is the case here. So I made a mistake here. So in the sidebar, we actually don't need to have two sidebars, because the sticky is going to be our sort of container component. And if I remove that, the sidebar profile icon pops back into place. So this is how it currently looks like. This is what it currently looks like. Now we're going to move on to suggestions component. In the suggestions component, we are once again going to import the profile, because we are using it here as well. So I'm gonna say profile, and we are gonna add stuff to our HTML. So we're gonna have a div here with a class name of title container, and inside of that we're gonna have a div with a class name of title, and it's gonna read suggestions for you, because that's what it says on Instagram, suggestions for you. And we're also gonna have a link here, a dummy link with text see all. And below that we are going to have a profile. So below that, in Instagram, you have a few profiles being suggested to you. So I'm just gonna fill this up with a few profiles which have some random captions, and icon size set to medium and caption size set to small. You can basically put in whatever you want if you want to put something different, but yeah. So like I said, we have a caption where you need to put something that is going to be displayed below the account. In this section, this is usually text in the lines of followed by this account plus this many more accounts, or something like that. So I'm gonna put something similar, followed by map vault plus 3 more. Then there is a, and there you see it. Then there is the URL text, which equals follow. There is the icon size, which equals medium. There is a caption size, which equals small. And for some of them, I put the story border. You don't need to, but it's more realistic, I think. So story border equals true for this one. And when I hit save, you can see it's gonna show something like this. Now I'm just gonna copy paste all of the other profiles that I have set up, and you can do something similar like I did. So you have something like this showing. So for this one, I put followed by .lachak plus 1 more. This one has follows you. Some of them have story border, some of them don't have a story border. But in any case, this is just to simulate. I believe there are usually 4 or 5 suggestions, so I've put that many as well. And that is it for suggestions. Now we're gonna set up the CSS for suggestions. So once again, we're gonna import properties, import properties and suggestions. is gonna have a margin top of 1.25 m. Now we have a title container, which is gonna have a display of flex, justify content to space between. Font size is going to be 0.8 m. Font weight is going to be 500. Color is going to be font color secondary, and margin bottom is going to be 1.25 m. Now inside of the title container we have a title which is going to have a min width of 200 pixels, and we have that URL in there which is going to have its width set to 100%, text align to right, and color is going to be black. And that completes the sidebar. The only thing left in the sidebar is to add the footer. So footer is just an unordered list. I made something similar in the Netflix's coming soon page video. If you want, you can check that out there as well. But here we are going to add an unordered list with the class name of links, and I'm just gonna add a bunch of different list items that Instagram has in its footer, which are about, help, press, API, jobs, privacy, terms, locations, top accounts, hashtags, and the language, which you can see being shown right here. And below that, we're gonna add a div with a class name of copyright, where there is text of @2020 Instagram from Facebook. And that is the whole component. Now we need to set the footer CSS. We are going to import properties, and for the footer we're gonna set the color to be font color footer. Font size is going to be 0.7 m, and margin top is going to be 2 m. Now the links in the footer are going to have display flex. Flex wrap is going to have wrap. Then we are gonna have a bit of a margin. Margin is gonna be 0.02m0, which is margin bottom. Padding is gonna be 0. A list style is gonna be none because we do not want the default bullet points. We want to set our own, and we do that. And we do that like this. We're gonna say, li, and inside of li, we're gonna say after, which is the pseudo after element, and we're gonna set its content to \2022, which is the bullet point. For margins, we're gonna set 0.25 em, and we do not want the last one to have a bullet point, so we're gonna remove that. by saying last child after content empty string. And that removes the bullet point, and that is it for the footer and for the sidebar. And the only thing left is to create the main content of the page, which are the Instagram posts or cards, or however you want to call them. So we are back in the cards component, and in here we are going to import a component that we do not have yet, which is called card. And because we don't have it yet, we are going to create it. So card.js import styles card.scss function card return div class name card, close the tag, and export default card. And we need to add the styles file called card scss. In the card, we're gonna set up a few things. So we're gonna import profile component because it's used here as well. So import profile. We need to import another SVG from the we need to import another SVG, which is the 3.svg more options or whatever button that you have in the corner of the Instagram post. You can download it the same way you did the buttons for the menu. Import React component as card button from images / card button SVG. And then we have a few more components that we still don't have, which are the card menu and comment. Now I am gonna quickly make these. So card menu function card menu return div class name equals card menu default export default card menu. And I'm gonna copy paste this and rename it to comment. And I'm gonna switch card menu, card menu, card menu, and card menu. And we need to make CSS files, card menu, and comment. And it should work properly. So back in the card, we have all of these things imported, and now card is gonna accept props, and we are gonna deconstruct them into story border, which we're gonna pass into the profile icon, into the profile, and then into the profile icon. Image, same thing. Comments, which I'm gonna explain in a minute. Liked by text, which is just the text that says liked by and then the account name. Liked by number, which is the number of people that liked the post, and hours. In desktop view, you can see how many hours ago the post was published, and all of these equal to props. And now for the card HTML, we have a header which has a profile which has icon size equal to medium and story border equals story border. Story border. Then we have a card button. Card button which has a class name of card button, which is, like I said, just that one SVG. And below the header, we have an image with class name of card image, which is the actual image in the post. For the source, we're gonna have the image. We're also gonna grab these randomly through an API. And we're gonna have alt saying card content, close the image tag. Then we have the card menu, which will give you the option to like and share and whatever there is aside from that. There is another div here with a class name of liked by. And inside of that, we have another profile with icon size equal to small and hide account name equals to true. Now, if you remember previously, I said I'm gonna explain what this does. So if you take a look at the Instagram, you just have the profile icon, you don't have the account name. So this is what the property basically does. So it just shows the profile icon. Then below that, we're gonna have a span element, which is gonna have text liked by. And in strong tags, we're gonna put the liked by text and in strong tags as well, we are gonna put the liked by number, and after that we're just gonna add others. Now here we are going to add section for comments, which is going to be a div with a class name of comments. And here we are actually going to take these comments, which are going to be an array, and we're going to map them into HTML. So comments dot map, and inside of that we're gonna say the single comment is going to return the comment component with key being equal to comment ID, account name is going to be equal to comment.user, and comment itself is going to be equal to comment.text. And I will show you how we're going to set up the the comments just to emulate actual comments. And we're gonna close the component. After that, we're gonna add a part of HTML that's gonna say when the post was published. So class name, time posted. And we are gonna say hours, which is the number, and the text reads hours ago. And below that, there is an option for you to add a comment, and we are going to name it add comment. And this is actually going to be a container which has a div with a class name of comment text, add a comment dot dot dot, and another div with a class name being post text, which is just a button, We need to actually implement calling the cards. So we're gonna do that in the cards part. And I'm gonna show you how to make the comments, and then we're gonna set up the CSS. So in the cards, I have multiple comments properties, which I'm just going to copy paste here, and I'm gonna show you the structure. You can also separate these in a separate folder, a separate file. So it basically is every one of them is a separate array of objects where you have this structure. So user with the username, the text, which is the text of the comment, and the ID, which we use for the key. And that is basically just that. Some of them have multiple comments, some of them have one comment. And now below the stories, we're gonna add 3 cards. We're gonna add 3 cards just for the sake of demonstrating how this works. So the first card is gonna have account name. So the account name is the actual account that published the post. Then the story border, like always, this is something that you can have or you don't need to have. Then for the image, we are going to use a site called PicSum, where you can basically enter a URL with some parameters and you get a random image. And it looks like this. So you enter https --picsum .photos/800/900, which are the dimensions, and that is it. And we're going to use multiple variations of this to get different things. And for the comments, we're gonna pass in the comments1 object. Liked by text is going to be equal to Dada Tlaček, and liked by number is going to be equal to let's say 89, and hours, since this was posted, is going to be 16. Now, of course, these are all for presentation purposes. In regular use case, you would get all of these from a database. I'm just showing you how this is how this could potentially work without a database. And now if I hit save, I should get something here, which is a huge image, which is not obviously positioned properly and doesn't have a proper size, and all of this is overlapping the sidebar, which we are going to fix. And you can see that sidebar is glued to the top. Anyway, I'm going to add a couple of more cards I'm just going to copy paste the ones I have. And basically these I've set different account name, different pick some URL. If you put just one value, you're gonna get a square image. So I wanted to show how it works with a square image, and one with where we have a different width and height, and with other different properties. Now, if we scroll, you can see these are indeed different images. If I refresh, I should get a new set of images, and I do. Next thing we are going to do is we are going to set the CSS for the card. And in here, we are going to import properties once again. And we're going to set cards to have a border of 1 pixel solid border color gray. And background color is going to be background white, and margin bottom is going to be 3.5 em, and border radius is going to be 3 pixels. Now the header is going to have a display flex. Justify content to space between, align items to center, padding is going to be 0.75 em, and then for the profile inside of the header, because we do not want the profile image to have a margin, so it doesn't push out stuff from below, we're going to set margin bottom to 0, which is going to override the existing margin. And then we're going to set the card button to height equaling 30 pixels. And on hover, we're going to do the same cursor pointer property, card image, which is going to have a width of 100% and display of block, which puts it into proper size. Liked by section is going to have a display flex. Padding left is going to be 1 em, and then we're going to set the span to have a little smaller font size, 0.75 em. Margin left is going to be 0.5 em, and padding top is going to be 0.5 em. Next, we are gonna set the comments to have a margin bottom set to 0.75 em, and then we are gonna have time posted set to font size equal 0.6 em. Padding left is going to be 2 em. Padding bottom is going to be 1 em. We're gonna set the color to font color secondary, and border bottom is going to be 1 pixel solid border color gray secondary. Right below that, we have the add comment part, which also has display of flex. justify content to space between. Font size is 0.85 em. Padding is 1.5 em, 1.25 em. And inside of that, we have the comment text with a color of font color secondary. And we also have a post text, which has also the color of link color secondary. And we are also gonna set a couple of media rules, saying media only screen and max width equal to 640 pixels. And we're gonna say card is going to have no border. The background color is going to go to background gray, and margin bottom is going to be 0.75 em, and the add comment part is going to be hidden, so display none, and time posted is going to have border none. What this means is on smaller screen sizes, the Instagram's content gets squished, so more content can fit on the page, and this is being reflected here with margin bottom being less, comments being removed, borders being gone, and this border also being gone. Now, if we go back, we can see that this is starting to look like something. Now, the only thing left is to actually add the comments. We are going to go back to the card menu, and once again, I am going to import some SVGs. These are all SVGs that we already used, except for the bookmark one. The function doesn't have any props, and the div contains, the card menu div contains another div with a class name of interactions, which is also a container for all the buttons. So for the buttons, we're gonna put the class name icon, like the ones from the upper navigation menu. Now we set the comments, class name equals icon, and we have inbox with class name equals icon. And outside of that div, we are gonna have the bookmark one with a class name of icon once again. And this is because the bookmark is sort of moved to the right, which you will see soon. So now we need to add the CSS. And for the CSS, we say card menu, display flex, justify content, space between. And for the margins, we're gonna set 1em. We're gonna set 1em 0. And the interactions class is gonna have also display flex, and it's gonna have padding left set to 1M. Also, we need to set the icon because these icons are a bit different from the top ones. So margin right equals 1M, width equals 23 pixels, height also 23 pixels. And once again, on hover, we are gonna set cursor. We're gonna set cursor to pointer, and that's it. And now, if I open this, you can see these are sorted nicely. Next, we need to work on the comments, and we are nearly done. So for the comments, we have props. And we are gonna deconstruct these to account name and comment, which equals to props. Oops, equals to props. And the return statement is gonna return, so this is gonna be comment container. And inside, we're gonna have a div with a class name of account name, and it's gonna accept the account name as a parameter, and another div with a class name of comment, which is actually gonna have the actual comment text. Now we just need to style them. We are going to import the properties, and the comment container is gonna have a display of flex. Display of flex. Padding left is going to be 1.5M. Font size is going to be 1.75M. Margin bottom is going to be 0.4M. And inside we have the account name, which has font weight of 600. And we also have a comment which has margin left set to 0.5M. And you see that these are being shown nicely at the bottom of the card. Okay, so this looks like it's a bit too narrow, so I think that needs to be fixed a bit. So that is in the let's see, in the profile text container, I think this is min width, right? So this looks good now. Also, this text needs to be aligned a bit differently. So that is also in the profile, and this should be text aligned right. And now this looks like it's supposed to. If I lower the page size, you can see that when we get to the break off point of, I believe, 1024 pixels, the sidebar is going to disappear, and the main page content pops back into the center. And at some point the cards are going to get squished like so, while removing the borders and removing the comments, not the comments, but the option to add a comment, and changing the colors, and also the stories get squished to the top. Another thing that we can do is, if you look closely, this profile icon is positioned a bit lower than the rest of the icons, And we can fix that by saying in the menu as CSS file, we can say profile icon margin top -3 pixels. And this concludes this tutorial on how to recreate Instagram's homepage in React from scratch. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. As always, all of the code is going to be available on my GitHub. If this video helped you, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.